Why is every game dying? That's a good question. I've seen this a lot recently, where there are like some games that are crazy popular, that have a very, very high active player base, and then suddenly like people are leaving and less than half the people that used to play the game are still around. So yeah, today we're going to watch this video by Force Gaming and we're going to talk about this issue.
If you've been paying attention over the past couple of years to the world of video game reporting, you may have noticed a trend concerning the health of recent releases. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Halo Infinite Steam player count falls below Halo Master Chief Collection. Apex Legends revenue figures reveal massive drop in popularity.
It's crazy.
Star Wars Battlefront player count is poor, dominated by Fallout 4. New World has lost almost 90% of its players since
That's a
launch.
fact.
Need I go on? Yeah? Okay. Realm Royale lost about 95% of its player base. The Division player count has dropped 93%. For Honor now has 95% of its player base lost, worse than Division 1. Anthem's
Holy shit, I didn't know it was that bad for For Honor. I thought For Honor, like, at least like half the players are still around, or like a little bit below half. But 95% For Honor? That game is actually pretty decent, like, it's not that bad. But yeah, with like New World, there were like tons of bugs. There were like some promises that were never fulfilled. So I think like it was a lot of frustration with New World, because I've been playing New World too, and there were tons of bugs. Like the game was fun. It lacked, in my opinion, sort of the story. Like the quests were a bit too simple, in my opinion. Would have been cool if there was like more backstory about why we do certain things in the game. But yeah, the bugs is probably what drove most people out of New World. But for Honor, 95%, this is shocking.
player count paints a very grim picture. Lost Ark peak players down 80%. Elden Ring concurrent player count has dropped dramatically, almost 90% losses. We are obsessed with concurrent player counts in games. Specifically, we're obsessed with how many people are leaving a game and how many people are still left. And it's not just games journalists and YouTubers looking to clickbait, although there is plenty of that for sure, but also just go to the forums or Reddit page of any game released in the past few years, do a quick search, and you are guaranteed to find plenty of threads talking about the number of people leaving the game and raising the question, is this game dead? And if you were to base your opinion on these discussions, these articles, and these YouTube videos, the answer would always be yes. The game is dead. Every game, in fact, appears to be dead or dying. So like,
yeah, this is something that I've also observed. Like, I remember back in the day when I was still like a high school student and stuff, like a new game comes out. What happens? People are playing the game active for at least like 2-3 years until they hop on a new game. I mean, just look like back in the day, for example, Elder Scrolls Oblivion. How many people were playing this game for at least 3 years straight until they jumped onto another game? Like the old school Mario games, Zelda games on Nintendo. Like, it was crazy. People would play it for more than a year or two. And now a new game comes out. People play it for like 3-4 months and then they change to a new game or do something completely else. Like, it's crazy. Like, what happened to all of those games? Like back in the day, it was minimum 1 year, the lifespan of a game, often even 3-4 years. And now, like, it seems like the lifespan for some games is literally half year or less. It is crazy.
okay, what's going on here? Because that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Well, I think there's a lot of different elements that go into this fixation on player count, but also many reasons why we continue to see example
I think it's also because we have too many similar
games.
games.
Comes out, is popular for a time, but then loses 70, 80, 90% of its players shortly thereafter. Some of the reasons are simple, like, people just stop playing games, but some of them are a little more complex.
No, that's not it.
One assumption that I just want to clear up immediately is this idea that player count decline is a direct indication of a bad game. Just no, it's not. It can be the consequence of a bad game if you release something that people are at first excited for, and then they jump in and realize it's not so great.
Okay, my opinion on this, because he just mentioned a great game or not a great game, that's why the numbers drop. Like, what I've seen these days is there are a lot of copy-paste games. And one of the thoughts like that I had why some games, also like New World and others, are not doing so well is, besides the issues of like certain bugs or maybe another game is more fun, is that there are too many similar games. Like with the MMO genre, we have seen this a lot there. Like a lot of MMOs that came out had so many similarities to other MMOs that were already on the market. I mean, just look at World of Warcraft. This game is freaking ancient and it still has a pretty high player count, like an active player count. It's not as good as it used to be, and it's still on decline. It's not actually on growth, but decline sadly. So I don't know how long World of Warcraft will live. But if you look at like how long it was popular versus other MMOs, I think one of the reasons why is because World of Warcraft was back in the day something unique, something different that had nothing comparable to it, right? And now you have like all those new MMOs come out, and I'm also worried about like Ashes of Creation because of that, because I feel like, oh, what if people compare Ashes of Creation with Elder Scrolls Online, Guild Wars, New World, and then like there are like so many other MMOs that it feels just like something so similar. Like from what I've seen, I think Ashes of Creation is going to be a beautiful game. It's really gonna be great. It looks fun so far. But I fear that because there are some similar games that this can have a negative impact on it. Because Zelda games, very unique back in the day, right? Elder Scroll games like Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, very unique. There were not so many like them. Now people could argue, okay, but there's like Witcher, right? Is Witcher a bit like Elder Scrolls? Sort of, but that is just one game that you can compare, right? But there are not so many games like freaking Elder Scrolls, at least not back in the day. Now you have more of that kind of stuff, right? But same with like Mario games, like jumping around on platforms, jumping on stuff so it dies, collecting coins, this and that. Like this was all something unique that came out back in the day. Same with Pokemon. So people had nothing to check out that similar. They knew, oh, it's this kind of game genre, it's this kind of game. There isn't so much competition in the market. Okay, I will stick to that game for years. And that's one of the reasons, in my opinion, why games lived way longer back then, because now we have too many similar games.
Yes, they will leave, and that is
By the way,
some of
guys,
what
don't
is
forget
taking
to
place
subscribe
here.
to
But
this
also, it doesn't matter if a game is total trash or if it's fantastic. Nearly every game, actually, will have a rather dramatic decline in player count eventually. There are, of course, some exceptions. Games that come up and post-launch will steadily grow. Fortnite was one such
Minecraft
case when Epic released the Battle Royale spin-off of their PvE Horde mode game in July 2017. Not a lot of people were playing at first, but then in the following months it saw massive growth, becoming, at least for a time, one of the biggest games in the world. But these are
they put out many updates,
and not every game can have Fortnite or Minecraft or vanilla World of Warcraft levels of post-launch growth. And even those that do inevitably see a decline as well. The record for largest peak player count ever recorded on Steam goes to PUBG. The game launched in March 2017, and then later that year in December reached a staggering peak of 3,236,000 concurrent players. Now,
you know what's crazy about PUBG now that he mentioned it? I almost forgot this game actually. Like, as crazy as it sounds, I nearly forgot that this game even existed. Like, I don't even see this one anymore on Twitch. Like, where is this on Twitch? I probably have to scroll down to the bottom or something. Like, I don't see it in the top 30, top 40 anymore. Like, what's happening? Like, this game completely disappeared. Like, seriously.
Today, it is down nearly 90%. Pathetic, right?
At least.
Well, no,
yeah,
not actually, because that still puts them at an average daily peak at roughly 350,000 concurrent players, which most days has PUBG still in the top 5 most played games on all of Steam. So percentages can be deceiving. Like, yes, it has dropped 90%, but 90% of the highest recorded player count on the platform ever is still a very large number. And while we don't have Steam player count numbers for every game, we can use Google Trends as a barometer. As imperfect as this may be, it does give us a general sense of things. For example, take a look at Minecraft, which to date is the highest selling video game in the world ever. It peaked in popularity in July 2013, which was about 2 years after release.
That's exactly what I mentioned earlier, guys. Have you noticed something here? Like, do you see this immediately when you just look at it? A game that has blocks and a random world generation, you can like build a lot, you can explore caves. Like, there is no game like freaking Minecraft. Some people are saying Valheim is like Minecraft, but if you play Valheim and Minecraft, you get a different feeling from both games. But if you play something like Guild Wars, Elder Scrolls Online, for example, or BDO, you get like a bit of a similar feeling, right? So it's kind of like, yeah, like, should I play this or this? Yeah, there are some differences here and there, but like half the game is like identical or something. No, but seriously, if you look at Minecraft and you look at like games that some people said are a bit similar, like Valheim, it's not similar at all, really. It was like, look at this, like a freaking world with cubes and the world randomly generates. You have like creepers, you have freaking different dimensions you can go to with portals and stuff. Like, the reason why Minecraft's so popular is it's something unique. There's no competition for it, and it appeals to all ages. Like, kids can play Minecraft, but it is also fun for adults to play. I mean, just look at myself. I'm still playing Minecraft, and I'm a freaking old guy.
13, which was about 2 years after release. It then progressively dropped down to an 80% decline,
And
which
then it
occurred
went up
in October
again.
2018. And although it has started trending up since then, it is still at the moment a mere 50% what it was at its peak. We know from back when
Really?
Blizzard published subscriber counts for
thought
World
it's like
of Warcraft
70%.
that game peaked at the end of Wrath of the Lich King in 2010. That was a solid 6 years of growth, which is very impressive, but ever since then, it has been a downward slide. So
Yeah.
as you can see, even with amazing games, even with some of the biggest, most popular titles in the world, they all follow the same trend of losing massive amounts of players over time. We just have example after
What's the
example
reason?
after example. In fact, I think a perfect recent showcase of this would be Elden Ring. While some people may argue otherwise, this is clearly a great game. It is no doubt going to make its way onto most top 10 lists this year, and it's also bound to rake in many Game of
fun.
the Year awards as well. This should be one of those titles that we can all point to as one of the better games to come out in 2022. Nevertheless, there are currently a bunch of articles and YouTube videos pointing out the fact that the game has lost a significant number of players, which is an accurate observation. Elden Ring peaked at about 953,000 concurrent players on March 3rd, a week after it launched, and then a month later that dropped down to 450,000 peak, and as of today, it sits around 50,000 peak concurrent players, which is roughly a 95% decrease.
That's a
Dead
lot.
game,
That's
right?
crazy.
No, not a dead game. It's just a game that a lot of people played and then finished, whether or not they completed the game or not. They played through it, they had their experience, and then
I mean, that's the thing with like some single player games, with the exception of Minecraft, because there's like the thing, you always start a new world, and then you have like a random world generation, random mobs, random dungeons, caves, and it's always like a new experience when you start a new game. You could say the same about Skyrim, right? Like if I level up a freaking orc warrior in Skyrim, and then I'm like, oh, I want to play as a necromancer, learn some spells on like a dark elf or something, and I play again, like at a place where there used to be bandits, there are suddenly freaking trolls or something else, or I encounter vampires suddenly. Like, there are some random encounters and stuff in Skyrim, and a lot of like single player games, they don't have this kind of randomness, right? Like, you play it once, if you play it again, it's completely the same experience. So single player games usually don't live as long as, for example, MMOs or like shooting games that are with a massive focus, of course, on multiplayer. Like, look at Call of Duty, how long it was crazy popular. It is still pretty popular, but I feel like also in Call of Duty, more than half the players are no longer playing. At least, maybe even more. Maybe it's like he's always saying 90%, but I feel like Call of Duty also declined a lot. So yeah, if you don't have like a heavily multiplayer focused game or a single player game with like random stuff like random world generation or random encounters like in Elder Scrolls, it's not gonna be popular for that long. 1-2 years, people have played through it and it's over.
they put it down, they moved on, as is the natural progression for most games. On the flip side, of course, though, we've got plenty of examples of bad games that see a decline in player count. But that's just my point. Great game or bad game, most games will see a decline. It's really just a matter of when. And for bad games, that decline is likely to happen a whole lot sooner. Okay, so now that we've established that this is going to happen no matter what, great games, crappy games, a decline is going to happen, what's with the fixation? Why do we keep talking about these massive percentage drops? Why is it always brought up? Why is it used to reference and call games dead games? Let me touch on this. There was recently an article posted on PC Gamer titled "Fixating on Player Counts and Dead Games is Making Gaming Worse." The main takeaway from this was pretty much that we care way too much about player counts, and we should instead just enjoy and play the games that we find fun, regardless of how many other people are playing. And I agree to an extent. Like, I agree that it shouldn't matter if there are 20,000 or 20 concurrent players in a particular game.
Yeah, but that's the same with like freaking fashion, like what clothes people are wearing and this and that. Like, if someone does something and and like a lot of people follow this kind of trend, like others will also follow the footsteps, right? Like, I give an example. if you see like a lot of people outside, like when you go to the city or somewhere or to the bus station, and they're wearing freaking baseball hats, and you see so many people wear baseball hats, what will happen in your mind? You will think, oh, that's the new trend. A lot of people are wearing baseball hats. Like, that's the style to go now. Oh, yeah, I need to buy a baseball hat. Like, it's kind of like what the majority of people does. Like, you're looking and you're like, oh, that's the right thing to do. Or, oh, yeah, that's like the style, the fashion. I should follow this. And it's the same with like a game. A game can be really shit. But if, like, for example, very big streamers pick it up, start playing it, and like more and more people come, like millions of active players daily, like this game, even if it's not as good, like people are going to follow it because they know all their friends and people that they like really love and idolize. Like, let's say Asmongold, for example, plays a new MMO that's actually very boring, not as good as World of Warcraft. A lot of people will also play this MMO suddenly and just try it, right? So yeah, I feel like numbers are definitely important psychologically to people, because people want to be cool, they want to follow the trend, they don't want to be outsiders, at least most of the people. I mean, there's still some introverts, like, right? But that's what's happening in people's minds. This is popular, a lot of people do it, I think I should do it too, because if a lot of people do it, then probably it's the right thing to do. Yeah.
If I am having a good time while I'm playing, that is what counts, right? Yes, of course. Back in the day when I went to my local Blockbuster to rent a copy of Metal Gear Solid, like a full 2 years after this released, I had no idea or care for how many other people were playing simultaneously. And had today's trend of reporting on % player count drops been a thing back then, almost certainly I would have seen headlines in a magazine like Metal Gear Solid, massive flop, 99% player count decline. And had I let that influence me and not rented the game, I would have missed out on one of the best gaming experiences of my life. Similarly, today, had I seen a 90% player count decline in Elden Ring as a sign that people didn't like the game and not played it, I would have been doing myself a massive disservice. So I agree that we shouldn't let player count declines necessarily determine if we are interested and wanting to play a game. That should not be a primary factor. However, while I agree with that, there is a big distinction to be made between that kind of game and these online only or games as a service titles, because player counts and growth or decline tend to tell a bit of a different story and have different implications here, ones that are becoming ever more relevant for gamers as the years go on. Today's gaming landscape is very different from back when I went to Blockbuster to rent Metal Gear Solid. In 2022, a large proportion of all of the new games coming out each and every year fall into the live service, games as a service, always online category. Games that require a constant internet connection and further support from the developer to get all of their content and to even continue existing. They tend to follow a similar formula. They will launch with a base and promise continual support and additions over time. The game comes out, it is more or less incomplete, with the promise of completion coming later on. There will be a roadmap of regular planned updates, seasons that will bring in new content and progression.
But that's exactly what also keeps people engaged, because if you're playing a game and you know every half year like a new expansion or something comes out, like a new DLC, maybe like new mode, new maps or something, right? Like, it's interesting because you're waiting for something and you know the game is still going on. I mean, this is what happens now with Minecraft, right? You get every half year or year or so, like a new update. You get the Caves and Cliffs update, you get the Wild update, you get this and that, you get the Nether update. And if you constantly update a game, or like World of Warcraft, there are so many expansions, right? Like, if you do this game stays longer popular. If you like make a game that's like completely done, and you're no longer pushing out any content, there are no more expansions, and people play through that, they're gonna run out of content. If you want to keep a game alive, the game needs to have consistent content, like new coming content. And if you have that, the game can live for much longer.
Goals, weekly events to keep you coming back, so on and so on. This is the case in
weekly
just
events
about every genre.
Enough.
AAA FPS titles like Call of Duty, Apex Legends, and Overwatch. Looter shooters like Destiny, Division, and Warframe. You got the MOBAs, League of Legends, and Dota, MMOs, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, ESO, Guild Wars 2, so on and so on. But even games and genres you might not expect, like some mostly single-player RPGs, turn-based games, card games, nearly everything thing has become a live service that is tied to a server and promising that there will be more of the game to come. And for these titles, if there isn't an active player base spending money or new players buying the game to fund further development, update plans might get delayed or even canceled altogether. That content roadmap that they launched with, if not enough people bought and are playing the game, just forget about it. It might as well have been a hallucination.
Isn't this happening to Valheim now?
And the player base tanks.
I think I've noticed this about Valheim, because Valheim had a big plan, like, oh, we are adding this and that, and until today there is nothing in Valheim, like, not so much. What's happening with Valheim?
There is a significant chance that promises the developer made about what the game will include later down the road, they are going to change. And for this reason, it is probably best not to purchase a game based on what is promised to come, but based on what is currently in the game. But it's also for that reason that I think players are so keenly interested and constantly talk about concurrent player counts. But not getting like some future promise updates or content patches or DLC or expansions, that's one thing. Even worse is games just getting shut down. Being a lifelong fan of MMOs, I have seen this a lot. Games that I've had an absolute blast playing over the years, like WildStar, Warhammer Online, Firefall, EverQuest Next Landmark, all of these and many more are dead. But not like LOL, the player base is dropping, haha, dead game, rip XD. No.
It would have been so nice if for like Warhammer Online, for example, they made like some cool updates, maybe like a newer version or something. Like, there are some games, especially like from the Warhammer universe, that already have some big backstory, right? Like, I feel like for MMOs, we see this with World of Warcraft because it was based on the Warcraft franchise, right? If you have a big world with like a lot of fantasy going on, like Warhammer, StarCraft, if there was a StarCraft MMO, it could also be very successful because you have a universe there, right? Your Blizzard should think about it. How about like World of StarCraft? We have World of Warcraft in the Warcraft universe. We have several StarCraft games. How about we make a World of StarCraft? No, like seriously, if you have a big world, a lot of backstory, maybe some books related to that, you can make a huge game out of this. Lord of the Rings like should have a brand new MMO, most definitely.
No, like literally dead, as in they don't exist anymore. In most cases, of course, this happened because the game didn't have a large or active enough player base to fund and sustain the game's development. And yeah, this has been occurring in the MMO space for a long time. We are used to it. But recently, in the past few years, it has started to creep into other more mainstream parts of gaming, as these always online titles in other genres have reached the end of their financially viable to keep afloat cycle. Just last month, Ubisoft announced plans to shut down online services for 15 of their games. These include 5 Assassin's Creed titles, Far Cry 3, Splinter Cell Blacklist, Prince of Persia, The Forgotten Sands, and a handful of others. And we've seen some other very high-profile examples of games from big studios shutting down in recent years. Epic shut down Paragon in 2018. 2K shut down Evolve in 2018. 2K also shut down Battleborn in 2021. We saw Ubisoft shut down Hyperscape in 2022. There's also a long list of games that, while technically not shut down, might as well be. Valve's Artifact is a great example of this. I mean, it is as good as dead. And that's just covering some of the AAA examples from these massively successful developers and publishers that everyone knows about. The list of AA and indie and early access games that have just vanished from existence over these past 5 or so years, it is very large and it is ever growing. So when a game comes out and we see an immediate decline in players, I think that is a genuine cause of concern for people. Is the game gonna not get the support that they're saying it's going to get? Or worse yet, is the game going to shut down? People are worried about this.
Yeah, it's the expectation. If you have like a high expectation of something and you only get a bit of it, or you see, oh, people are turning their back on it, then your expectations, they are going to drop, right? So if you have like hopes for something, that's the same with if you're going to freaking university to get a certain degree. Like, let's say you want to become a mechanical engineer, right? And you're like studying engineering at college. And you're going to college with the expectation that you're going to find a good job when you graduate from it, right? So in your mind, like, oh, I'm gonna make it. And then what is if you're in like your first semester and you're studying mechanical engineering, and your first semester you get like news, oh, there are like no more jobs for mechanical engineers, like this the payment is very bad. And you hear like all those crazy news from like the maybe news on TV or from newspapers or online. And then some people, like a lot actually, are going to stop studying this area. Like, oh, I no longer want to become mechanical engineer because this job gets low payment and there are almost no jobs available when I graduate. You know what? Let me just quit that and I will study something else, like maybe IT or something. Because oh, the IT, like there are so many jobs for it. People need people that know how to handle work with a computer. So yeah, that's the thing. I mean, this is what I'm saying is just an example, okay, guys? Like, mechanical engineering is a good profession. If you want to study it and work for it, I'm pretty sure you could find a good job. But if it was just an example. If it was the case, people would also leave. And that's the same with games. If you have the expectation, oh, this game will be the top in the top 5 or top 10 of the games this year, so many people are playing it, millions of active players, and then you see, oh, it's actually not the case. It's on top 50 or even lower than that, and what, it's just 200,000 active players a day or something. Like, yeah, people are going to leave because it's a psychological factor.
This, and rightfully so. And along these same lines, when it comes to player count, it has something to say about the health of a game. Just like review scores and user scores, player count is another metric that people are using to help determine, is this game good and is it worth checking out? As we've covered, it is of course natural for people to stop playing every game eventually, but especially for games that are designed to be played over longer periods of time and built to be logged into every day, like the developer, the publisher, they are designing these games for people to come back day in and day out. How much and how quickly a player base drops in these titles is noteworthy and a clear indicator of an issue for potential players. If a new MMO launches and loses 90% of its player base in a single month, that tells a story. It could be that the game is having a lot of server issues. People can't log in, so they stop trying. It could be that the game is full of bugs, glitchy, laggy, or it could be that it's simply not fun to play, and after giving it a shot, people quit sooner than later. Or let's say we've got a game that comes out, numbers are strong, they grow even initially in the first couple of weeks, but then they start heavily declining after a month or two. This could be an indication that the late or the end game content is lacking. Player count is just one factor. Like you don't get the entire story just by looking at these numbers. But if you take player count and you add in player experience, the discussion that's happening
feedback,
online around these games, then it starts
it.
to paint a picture of what the larger issues may be and what could be causing player decline beyond that natural drop that every game, even the best games in the world, all see. And that is interesting for the current as well as the potential players. And then there's just the fact that everything is vying for our attention, and there is way too much of all of it. There are too many live service games that want us playing
and too many
every
similar
day,
games.
all day. And with how gaming is at the moment, I think much of the fixation on active player count just stems from people not wanting to waste their time or their money. As much as you can just enjoy a game for what it is in the moment, there is a big draw for a lot of people to spend their time on something that will last. Like, I really enjoyed Firefall. It wasn't perfect, but I had fun playing over the course of a few years. Firefall no longer existing doesn't take away the fun that I had, but on the other hand, there's a functionally infinite number of games that I haven't played, more games than I will ever play in my lifetime that I could have played. So would my time have been better spent not on Firefall, but say playing Final Fantasy XIV? I don't know, maybe. Like with anything in life, making a decision to do one thing is a decision to not do literally everything else. So choosing to spend time playing one game means not spending that time playing any of the other games. That is just a fact of being alive and having to make choices, and I think with that there is a natural fear people have to not want to spend their time doing something that they feel in the end was a waste. Although I don't believe that experiencing a game that gets shut down or loses further development and functionally becomes abandoned, I don't believe it becomes a waste if it's no longer playable, but I do understand the aversion. And like I said, there is a long list of factors that go into this fixation that we have with concurrent player counts and whether or not a game is...
I think this is especially true for like MMOs. Like, the grindier and hard it is for a game to get to end game and max out your character, the more you want this game to actually succeed. Like, I see this a lot with MMOs. If you look at World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV, If the numbers drop, like, people are going insane. They are going to spam stuff on Reddit that is super against the game. They are going to make videos about, like, people are going to are like freaking out way more than if it's like a single player game that you finish within like a few months only, right? So yeah, the grindier game is, the more you want the end game, like the end of the road when you have reached the max, to be worth it and not a waste of time. Yeah, this is why there are so few super popular MMOs. If you look at shooting games, they are very quick to play, right? Like, there isn't like this kind of super end game where you have to like grind to make your character stronger. No, you just enter a map, you have your weapons, everyone has the same kind of weapons that they can choose, and they're just gonna be in like an arena or something for a couple of minutes. Then the round is over, you get a score, you get to the next round. And besides the score you have of how many games you win and stuff, there isn't something to grind for. But in MMOs, you have this heavy grind, right? So yeah, I feel like people are even more sensitive in this genre.
Is dead or dying. And I imagine what we've touched on here is just one facet of the entire picture. And as more time passes and more great games release, all in competition with each other for our time, this isn't going to get any better. We are going to keep fixating on player counts, on discussions around forums and articles, all of this. This isn't 2004, you know, when WoW came out and there were like one or two other good MMOs to potentially
That's
play.
what I said.
Nowadays, there are hundreds, if not thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of great games that we could just boot up right now and play instead.
It
and that
spreads
list
the
will
player
just
base.
keep on growing with time. So there are tough decisions to be made, and looking at reviews and everything around games, and yes, looking at active player counts and noting their decline and how quick that decline happens. This is all factored into the decisions that we're making on what games to play and what games to spend our time on. And
That's
there
true.
you go. That is going to do it for this video. This was fun, a little bit different than my usual fare, but nevertheless, I had a good
very
time. I hope
interesting.
you enjoyed it. It's kind of fun diving into a topic like this. Thank you guys so much, as always, for watching. Hope you enjoyed
Thank
the
you
content.
for making this
I'll see you in the
video.
next one, all right?
Let me give this one a thumbs up. This was very informative by Force Gaming. No, but seriously, it is an issue if you have too many similar games, and if you have those games that like literally lack content. Like, we have sometimes games that if they come out, New World is a good example. You can clearly see this game was not finished when it launched. And people are having some kind of patience, but the patience is just a few months. So if you bring out a game that's not completely done yet, you need to have a plan what you're going to put out in the next 3 to 4 months. If you take longer than 5-6 months and a game is unfinished, for example, when you release it and people can feel it while playing, like I did with New World, then a lot of people are going to quit. And if you have games that are crazy similar, I mean, just look at the MMO genre, look at Guild Wars, look at ESO, look at BDO. Like, there are some similarities, right? And what about like shooting games? You have so many freaking shooting games these days, and more become similar. And this battle royale kind of movement is everywhere. Like, you don't even know what to play anymore. You have one friend that goes by the name Michael, he plays Valorant. Then you have one friend that goes by the name Nick, he plays Call of Duty. Then your other friend Josh, he plays freaking Fortnite. Like, what game are you going to play? And then you have Stacy that plays freaking PUBG, maybe your girlfriend, whatever. Like, it's insane. Like, you have so much. So what do people gonna play at the end of the day? And especially if they are similar. Like old school games where like one game comes out, there's like 1 or 2 games like that at most. Maybe not even. Like, some games were super unique. I mean, just look at Elder Scrolls, look at freaking Pokemon, look at Zelda games, look at old school strategy games. Like, after a while it was okay, they were like more, but if you get old Warcraft or Starcraft, for example. Like, it's just like that. If you have too much on the market, people are going to spread more. Then you have also like, now you have like the internet, you constantly get news, you have like a lot of streamers to watch and stuff, right? So I feel like this also influences you. Like, who are you watching online? What kind of videos are you getting suggested on YouTube? And this is what keeps you engaged into certain games, right? But yeah, what do you guys think about why every game is dying? For me, it's a lot of games come out unfinished and they take too long to put out new content, so people are losing patience. It's also that there are too many games that are similar, so people have no clue what they should play. They see this has this and that, this has this and that, but 80-90% the same. yeah, if games are too similar, what should you focus on, right? And what's also an issue now is we have way too many games. Like, I play multiple genres of games and I enjoy them all. I will play sometimes shooting games like Call of Duty. There will be times I will hop on Minecraft. There will be times I will play Final Fantasy XIV, World of Warcraft. I still sometimes play old school Warcraft. I'm not even kidding. And yeah. Yeah, let me know in the comment section what you're thinking. If you guys are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. If you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this one a thumbs up. I wish everyone a wonderful day. I will see you guys next time.